What is up, everybody? Welcome to the TBT Sportscast. This is episode 2. I hope you guys will enjoy. This is a quick little stream. So yeah, let's get into it. So, this is by the way, if you don't know, this is a podcast where I basically talk about all NFL, MLB, and NBA related news. So if you guys want to go ahead and keep up to date, subscribe. And by the way, guys, there is going to be no TBT Sportscast or TBT Wrestling Podcast. There's going to be none on Friday and also Saturday. I'm going away. So, yeah, but let's get straight into the first headline, and that is one of the biggest headlines of the day. Kyler Murray does, in fact, declare for the NFL draft. And earlier today, Kyler Murray did declare for the NFL draft despite the pleas from the Oakland A's to stop him from going to the NFL draft. But he can still consider baseball. He was a top 10 pick in the MLB draft. And he's now projected to go number 6 to the Giants in the CBSSports.com mock draft. And honestly, Kyler Murray, he's a special talent. I wish he would have picked baseball. The reason why is because in the NFL, there's so much concern now with all these head injuries and all the injuries you get playing football. So, I don't know. I mean, I think that personally, if he wanted to have a longer career, he could go with baseball. Also, he got guaranteed money playing in the MLB. I believe he got like $4 million guaranteed or something like that. I believe he was the number 8 pick. He got $4 million guaranteed from the Oakland Athletics, but unfortunately he will not be playing football. He can still consider it, but he's probably not going to play he probably is not going to play baseball. He will pursue football, and honestly, he will be a top 10 pick. I mean, he has a lot of great talent. Now, I mentioned this in episode 1 of the TBT Sportscast. I mentioned this, and I said that possibly what they could do is the Cardinals could select Kyler Murray with the number 1 overall pick and then trade away Josh Rosen, the guy they selected in last year's draft, I believe it was number 10 overall or number 9. They selected him and trade him to the Giants to try to get a star like Odell Beckham Jr., someone like that. Because the Giants are in desperate need of a quarterback, but the biggest thing is, if this trade gets done, they would, of course, need a lot of testicular fortitude to take Kyler Murray number 1 because he could be a bust. But then again, when you think about it, if they could make a trade on draft day where they send Josh Rosen, maybe some picks and a player to the Giants in exchange for Odell Beckham and maybe a pick, then that could work out great in the favor in terms of the Cardinals. It could work out a lot because they are getting a great receiver, another great target for Kyler Murray to throw to, and also considering that probably Larry Fitzgerald will retire after this season or will retire very, very soon. Could be interesting, but looking at it, still Kyler Murray, if he gets taken number 1 overall by the Cardinals, we could see a possible trade going down. And honestly, I don't know if this is the smartest decision in terms of injuries and having a long career for Kyler Murray. I think that if he really wanted a longer career, he should have stayed with the MLB. He shouldn't have gone to the NFL. But you know what? It's Kyler Murray's decision, not mine. So hopefully Kyler Murray can have a long career. If he doesn't like it after 1 year, which I don't know, he might not like it after 1 year, but if he doesn't like it, he could go back to baseball because they said on the reports that he can still consider baseball. And I believe Russell Wilson was one of the players. He was drafted by the Yankees, and he actually went to spring training. So it could be possible for Kyler Murray to play football and baseball at the same time. So could be interesting to see what we got. But Kyler Murray does declare for the NFL draft, and honestly, I can see him going top 10, definitely. He's a great talent. We're just going to have to wait and see. And also, he might be the shortest quarterback to ever play in the National Football League if he does get some starts. That's pretty cool. Next was the Mike Munchak has agreed to become the Denver Broncos offensive line coach, and he is considered to be one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. He was previously the Steelers coach for 5 years, and he's been praised for being tough-minded and a good motivator, and he also was a 9-time Pro Bowl selection and a 4-time first-team All-Pro in his playing career. Honestly, this is a good pickup for the Broncos. They're really bolstering their staff, and Kubiak is not going to be a Bronco. He's not going to be in the Broncos staff, and he's honestly, you know what, man? Vic Fangio, I mean, this is a good hire. I like this. And Munchak was actually one of the top candidates to become the new head coach, but Vic Fangio was named on Thursday as the new head coach. So we're going to have to wait and see. But honestly, I think this is a good pickup for the Broncos, and it will help because I believe Garrett Bowles was one of the most penalized players in the NFL in his first 2 years. So Munchak could definitely help with the development of Garrett Bowles and also guys like Matt Paradis and so on and so forth. But I think this is a really good signing for the Broncos. They're really making their staff better. The biggest thing they need, in my opinion, out of free agency, though, is a quarterback. I don't think Case Keenum is the answer for this team. I think they need a quarterback. They could possibly draft one. Considering now that Kyler Murray is in the NFL draft, we could see the Broncos. I got to see what pick they have. But they could take a guy like Daniel Jones, or they could take, if he's still available, Dwayne Haskins, or, you know, if he's still available, Drew Lock. They could take one of those 3 guys and possibly replace Case Keenum. And I don't know, maybe trade him for picks. I'm not really sure yet. But I just don't think Case Keenum is the answer for this team. Plus, it would save up cap space with the Broncos. It would save up cap space, and they would be able to go after free agents if they did release, or if they did trade Case Keenum for something. So, could be very interesting, and we're going to have to wait and see what happens. But Mike Munchak is the new Broncos offensive line coach. Very, very good hire by Vic Fangio, and hopefully everything goes right for the Broncos this year. Next was actually one of the biggest stories of the day in terms of all of sports. Jerry Rice recently went on an interview with 95.7 The Game, and he said that he had a FaceTime call with Antonio Brown, and reportedly Antonio Brown did say he really wants to join the 49ers, and he really wants to play alongside guys like Jimmy Garoppolo, Marquise Goodwin, George Kittle, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And Rice basically went on an interview and said that Brown really, really wants to play for the 49ers. And honestly, you know what? If the 49ers were able to get Antonio Brown somehow, some way, that would be a massive pickup. It would definitely be the most targeted guy on the team in terms of, you know, targets, obviously. Garoppolo, it would be a great target for him to throw to. I just really like this. I really like this overall. I think that if Antonio Brown gets traded to the 49ers, the 49ers would probably have to give away a lot of stuff for him, maybe a first and a second round pick and a good player for Antonio Brown, because the guy is insane. He's one of the top receivers, if not the top receiver in the NFL. So it could be very, very interesting. Honestly, though, Antonio Brown, his situation has been one of the top stories in football as of late, ever since week 17, when I believe he was benched and then he basically wanted to trade. It's kind of like the Kawhi Leonard situation. If you're, an NBA guy, this is basically like the Kawhi Leonard situation where basically he demanded a trade out of San Antonio, and he eventually got traded to the Toronto Raptors. But Antonio Brown, this is a very interesting situation. I don't think he's going to be traded, but if he is, the team would have to give up a lot in return. But if a team was able to get Antonio Brown, that could take a team from probably mid NFL to probably maybe like mid to high, possibly a high or elite NFL team because of the talent that Antonio Brown has. But really, if he does go to another team, I mentioned this in my last episode, the major thing, if he does go to another team, will he be able to succeed with the different quarterback throwing to him? We saw it with Larry Fitzgerald. He was able to succeed with Kurt Warner, Carson Palmer, Josh Rosen, etc. throwing to him. He was able to succeed, and he has had a Hall of Fame career with multiple quarterbacks throwing to him. So the biggest question is, Antonio Brown has played with Big Ben his whole career, so will he be able to adjust with the different quarterback, such as maybe Jimmy Garoppolo? But I really think he can make the smooth adjustment just because Jimmy is an exciting talent. Now, yes, he has a massive contract, and there's a lot of expectations for him to play up, but I think Garoppolo is going to play up. His season was cut short, and I really feel bad for the guy, but next year he will come back strong. He will win I guarantee you that he will have a good season next year because of the talent that he is. He's played behind Brady all these years. I think he's going to come out next season just like he did when he got traded in those games that he had after he got traded from New England. But honestly, definitely look for Jimmy Garoppolo to be a big player in the 49ers offense next season. And even he has George Kittle now. George Kittle came out of nowhere. He is now one of the top tight ends in the NFL. He has elite speed, elite hands, and he's overall a great receiver. And also, I mean, he's a one-of-a-kind tight end in terms of speed. I mean, you don't really get a speed tight end like that. So, could be interesting to see what Garoppolo does next year. Personally, I'm saying, though, Garoppolo is going to have a good season next year. I just have a lot of confidence in this guy. He's played behind Brady. He knows the system. So, hopefully he'll have a good season next year. But, wrapping up the Antonio Brown situation, I don't know where he's going to go. It's like picking a needle out of a haystack. You know, you don't know, or it's like a deck of cards. You know, you don't know what you're going to draw next, and really we don't know what we're going to see from Antonio Brown next. But if he does get traded, number one, they would have to give up a boatload, the other team, but also the team will be getting a top receiver in the NFL who could be a game changer for a team. So it could be very interesting there. Now, something coming out of the New Orleans Saints camp was they did lose defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins to a torn Achilles, and in the Saints' 20-14 win over the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday, the former first-round pick D tackle did tear his Achilles. He will be out for the remainder of the playoffs against the Rams, and if they make it to the Super Bowl, against whoever makes it. And the Saints, this is a big blow to their number 2 defense in the NFL. They played really incredible. And honestly, they made so many improvements. The Saints are a real force to be reckoned with. They're going to be the Super Bowl champions. I guarantee it, because the team was insane. I mean, they came from last year. There was a lot of doubts about their defense, especially how they ended with the Minnesota Miracle. But this team has been able to rebound incredibly. They've been able to have 2 great seasons. And I have a lot of confidence in this team winning the Super Bowl and giving Drew Brees a championship. It's kind of like the Ray Lewis story. Ray Lewis, I believe the Ravens made the wild card game and they made it all the way to the Super Bowl and won. And just, that was a great story, Ray Lewis getting a ring before he retired. I think Brees is going to be the same way. Once he gets that ring, he's going to retire, just like his counterpart Peyton Manning. He will retire after he gets that ring. We're not really sure, but I think that's what's going to happen. And now this is a big blow, though, for the Saints. The Saints now need to step up because they don't have Sheldon Rankins, who is, I mean, he's a great D-tackle. He's a great D-tackle, great on that defensive line with Cameron Jordan. But this is a time for the defense to really step up. They've been doing it all year. Now with an injury on the defensive line, can the line hold up with a guy like Cameron Jordan on that line? Can they hold up? Can they stop that? Can they get past the Rams offensive line, especially with Rob Havenstein, who's been an incredible key to the Rams being so great this year? Can they get past Havenstein and the other great offensive linemen and get to the quarterback? That's going to be the main question come, I don't know when it is, Saturday or Sunday. Either way, that's going to be the major question going into this game because now they don't have Sheldon Rankins. But against the Eagles, that secondary played incredible. And honestly, it's going to be really interesting to see. Honestly, though, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. Now, we're going to recap this weekend's games. So the first game we had this weekend, I went over the Chiefs versus the... what team was it? Chiefs versus Colts. I went over that game already on episode 1. It just ended. So I went over that in episode 1. But I'm going to recap the rest of the game. So the Cowboys ended up losing the game against the Rams 30-22. And actually, Sean McVay did break a record. He becomes the youngest head coach to win a playoff game. And the original record was held by John Madden with the Oakland Raiders, or Los Angeles Raiders, when he was 33 years old. He won his playoff game. Now Sean McVay breaks that record. He was 32 years old when he won. And the Rams played incredible. C.J. Anderson had 23 carries, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Gurley also shared the load with 16 carries for 115 yards and a touchdown. Dak Prescott played incredibly great for the Cowboys, 266 yards, 1 touchdown, and he also had a rushing touchdown, and Zeke had a rushing touchdown. Didn't really have a big game, but he still got a touchdown. Amari Cooper had 6 receptions for 65 yards and a TD. Michael Gallup, though, really stepped up in this game for the Cowboys. He had 6 receptions for 119 yards and no touchdowns, but he really stepped up. I really like the way this guy looks. I believe he's the rookie out of Oklahoma State. So definitely look for Michael Gallup to be a key part in the wide receiving core next season for the Cowboys. Moving on to the defense, the Cowboys did have 2 TFLs compared to the Rams 6, so the Rams really dominated on defense. With Aaron Donald, you kind of would expect that. Guys like Aaron Donald, Ndamukong Suh, etc., etc. But the Rams did play really well in this game. I think that they deserve the win. However, the Cowboys, they played great. Cowboys fans, do not be upset. You guys did incredible this season. You exceeded expectations. You got a great win against the Saints. And I believe that was in the Superdome, too. You guys held them to 13 points. I mean, the Cowboys was just... It was incredible, honestly, the way the Cowboys played in that game, and they were able to win the NFC East title, and they had a great playoff run. So, guys, hats off to you guys, and hopefully next season we'll treat you guys well, and it will definitely be interesting to see if they can get any guys in free agency to bolster the team. But the Cowboys' postseason run is over. Now the Rams move on to the NFC Championship game. Then, moving on to the next game we had here, it was the Chargers taking on the Patriots, and the Patriots do win this one by a score of 41-28. They actually broke a franchise record, having 3 touchdowns in their first 3 possessions, and that was a franchise record. They came out of the gates swinging, and it really showed. Tom Brady, let me check for chat. All right, so there is no chat right now. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anybody, but here we go. So, anyway, moving on. Tom Brady had a massive game, 343 yards and a touchdown. Phillip Rivers also did great for the Chargers, 331 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Had a great game from the field. Phillip Rivers, honestly, he's been playing on really bad teams. He should have a Super Bowl ring by now because he has been playing incredibly his whole career. So, yeah, honestly, Phillip Rivers, I feel bad for you. Hopefully, you know, you could get a Super Bowl ring in the next couple of years, because really the Chargers do look a very, very promising team in the next couple of years, because they have young guys such as Hunter Henry, and also Mike Williams has really stepped up this season too. I believe he missed his first year in the NFL with an injury, so Williams had a great comeback year. Then moving on, though, we had a lot of guys step up for New England, though. We had Sony Michel, who has been on fire this season from Georgia. I love the kid. He has great talent. He knows what he's doing. And honestly, at the running back spot, that was a great pick by New England. Plus, a better thing is they are getting Isaiah Wynn as well back next year. So the Patriots offensive line is about to get more stacked next year. But Sony Michel did have 24 carries for 129 yards and 3 touchdowns. I believe he actually had 3 touchdowns in the first half. So really, really good from Sony Michel. I love the kid. I just like him. Definitely the Patriots rushing game got a lot better. Also, Rex Burkhead did pitch in with a rushing touchdown. And then Julian Edelman, he had an incredible game. 9 receptions for 151 yards. Great game by Julian Edelman. Really stepped up, considering that Gronk wasn't really a big factor in this game. He only had about 25 yards. And I heard a report today that Gronkowski is seriously considering retirement after the season is over. So definitely look for Rob Gronkowski to possibly retire, because he's really mad at the Patriots. They were trying to trade him to the Lions before Gronkowski nixed it, and he said that he was going to retire if he was traded to the Lions, which, I mean, honestly, really, Gronk, I mean, I know you're playing for the Patriots, but come on. I mean, change of scenery would really help you. Imagine Matt Stafford throwing to Rob Gronkowski. I mean, it would help the Lions a lot. I don't know what they were going to get in return. But anyway, going to be very interesting to see what Gronkowski does in the future. But really, he didn't really have a big game. But Edelman really stepped up. Another guy that stepped up too was James White. 15 receptions for 97 yards. Once again, James White is another great running back. The Patriots did great in terms of getting running backs. James White is a pure receiving back. He knows what he's doing. I really, really like James White. The future is looking very, very bright for him. Wow, that actually rhymed. I Can't believe that. Paul Master TBT. Anyway, though, moving on. James White, I mean, he's just had an incredible game. I think he's had a good amount of receptions, good amount of yards this year. So I'm really impressed with James White's production this year. And the Patriots running game is really, really good. I like the Patriots running game. It's good. Philip Dorsett also registered a touchdown for the Patriots. And then for the Chargers, Tyrell Williams had 5 receptions for 94 yards. And Keenan Allen also had 2 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown. And then the old guy, the tight end, the future Hall of Famer, Antonio Gates, scored a touchdown as well. Antonio Gates has had a long career. Hopefully he will retire after this year, because I think it would be a great send-off story. They had a great team. Why don't you just retire this year, Antonio Gates? You should. You've had a great long career, Hall of Fame bound. So Antonio Gates, it would be smart for you to retire right now. Don't risk a bad season. Go out on a good note and retire this year. But on defense, the Pats did have 4 TFLs compared to LA's 6 TFLs. And the Patriots, they played really good this season. This game, I was very, very shocked in terms of what they did. And there's actually an interesting stat out there that the Patriots in the Bill Belichick era and Brady era, in their seasons leading up to this one, they've only lost an average of like 1.8 games a season to non-playoff teams, yet this year they lost 5 games to no playoff teams. And that really shows that the Patriots dynasty is kind of declining, and I'm kind of worried for the future. But you know what, Patriots, this is the time now. If you can somehow make a trade to trade up in the draft, pick a quarterback like Daniel Jones, or if Drew Lock is still available, pick him possibly, or try to get a quarterback in free agency, because Brady's not going to be there for much long. He's going to start deteriorating. He's already had a torn ACL, which is a big factor in the longevity of his career. But I would really, really like the Patriots to get a quarterback in this draft. I'm actually wearing a Patriots sweatshirt right now. But if the Patriots can somehow get a quarterback in this upcoming draft, that would be huge. And we can start preparing for the future post-Brady era and possibly post-Belichick era too. So, really look for that. But, moving on, yeah, the Patriots do win this game. Then, we had the Saints in the last game of the divisional round. They beat the Eagles by a score of 20-14. And, Eagles, what can I say? You guys got karma. The Cody Parkey miss really kind of plagued you guys. Alshon Jeffrey. Basically, the Eagles were deep in Saints territory at the 2-minute warning. They decide to snap it before the warning. They throw the ball to Alshon Jeffrey. Goes right through his hands and intercepted by Marshawn Lattimore. That effectively ended the game with a Alvin Kamara first down 4 plays later. And pretty much it was karma for the Eagles. It was karma because if we really look at it, the Cody Parkey miss, it was karma. Cody Parkey should not have missed that kick. And, I mean, karma got you guys. I'm sorry, karma got you guys. But Nick Foles, in possibly his final game for the Philadelphia Eagles, he's had a historic 2 years. Historic. The guy has been incredible these last 2 years. Super Bowl 52 MVP, by the way. But Nick Foles did have 201 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Not really good for Nick Foles. Really, one of the picks should not be his fault, but whatever. I mean, it wasn't the best pass, but Jeffrey should have caught it, but right through his hands. It's just not a good situation. But Drew Brees had a great game. I mean, he's been playing great all season. Drew Brees could possibly be a contender for MVP just because of the way the guy played this season. He played at such a high level, especially at, I don't know, like 36 years of age? Somewhere around that, and he still played at a high level. I am really impressed with Drew Brees this season. Definitely had a great season. Could be looking towards the future, you know, post-Drew Brees era, because honestly, how many years are you guys going to have left of Drew Brees? It's really a question that's hanging over his head. But he did have 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. And the Eagles actually quickly went up 14-0, and that one pick from Brees actually came on, I believe, the first play from scrimmage of the game. It was picked off by the Eagles. They quickly went up 14-0, but then the Saints kicked it into overdrive. They held the Eagles to no points after those first couple of minutes. Points in the next 3 quarters, and they effectively win the game. But anyway, back to it. Nick Foles actually did have a rushing touchdown as well, and Alvin Kamara played a big part in the Saints' success, and also Mark Ingram too. Mark Ingram did share some of the load, but Kamara was the big factor here. He had 16 carries for 71 yards, and then Alshon Jeffrey, the guy who dropped the pass and went in between his hands, he did have 5 receptions for 63 yards, so not a bad game for Alshon Jeffrey. He was actually a great signing for the Eagles in the offseason, so I mean, he had a good season. Alshon Jeffrey, don't let it get to you, please. And then Jordan Matthews also did have a touchdown for the Eagles. And then Michael Thomas. The kid is insane, all right? 12 receptions, 171 yards, and a touchdown. Are you kidding me with this guy? Michael Thomas. One of the biggest points in Drew Brees' success was because of Michael Thomas. The guy can catch anything. It's like his hands are glue. Is he using Stickum? Is he really using Stickum? Because the guy is an incredible, incredible player. I believe this is only his 3rd year in the league. So looking very, very bright for the future of Michael Thomas. He's performing at a very, very high level right now. Imagine what he can do in 3, 4, or maybe even 5 years. Just imagine it. Very, very bright future for Michael Thomas. Keith Kirkwood also did register a touchdown for the Saints. And then the Eagles had 3 TFLs compared to the Saints, 0. Yet the Saints did win the game. Overall, Philadelphia, you guys got karma. You still had a great season, though. Nobody expected you to get this far. So be happy with yourselves. Don't whine about it on Twitter. Now we're going to move on into the NBA portion of the news today. So the biggest news coming out of the NBA actually just came out a few hours ago. And Clint Capella is now out 4 to 6 weeks with ligament damage in his thumb. He did undergo an MRI in Houston today, and actually Houston is losing another starter to add on to Chris Paul and Eric Gordon, who are both out right now, and Capella is averaging 17.6 points, 12.6 rebounds, and nearly 2 blocks a game, so great stats for him. He actually just signed, I believe, a 5-year, $80-something million contract in the offseason, so Clint Capella is out, though, for 46 weeks, up to a month. And the Rockets do have Nene and Isaiah Hartenstein behind Clint Capella. So they do have some depth there, but honestly, Clint Capella is going to be a major loss to this team. However, they do have the name backing him up, so it's not too bad, but still, Capella has been a big role in the Rockets' success this season, especially without Chris Paul, so it's going to be a big loss for the Rockets. Hopefully, they will rebound somehow, because Harden's been playing out of his mind, incredible, and we will actually talk about him later, but big loss for the Rockets. Hopefully they can rebound. Hopefully they can get a win tonight, but honestly, the Rockets, it's a big loss for Clint Capella, for the Rockets, and also Clint Capella. He's not going to be playing for the next 4 to 6 weeks, so could be very interesting to see how the Rockets do. This will really tell us, how will the Rockets be without 3 of their starters. Then moving on, we actually have one of the biggest news stories out of the NBA the last couple of days, and it was the Patrick McCaw situation. Now, if you guys don't know, I'll give you a quick recap. So what happened was the Cleveland Cavaliers did sign Patrick McCaw to a 1-year, $6 million offer sheet. 2-year, $6 million offer sheet. He was a restricted free agent, and the Cavs ended up actually releasing him after 3 games. Now, it was reported that the Warriors went to the Cavs and demanded them to release Patrick McCaw, but the NBA just cleared them today of no wrongdoing, and if the Cleveland Cavaliers had some offenses and they were found guilty, they would have to forfeit a draft pick, but unfortunately they do not have it. They do not have to, and the Cavs are basically, they're clean swept of anything. Now, on the topic of the Cavs, they're a really bad team. They are a really, really bad team. The team was just not good. After losing LeBron and Kyrie, that was it. And I feel bad for Kevin Love once again because he's on a crap team. Oh, yeah. Guess what? That was the same situation a couple years ago in Minnesota. So, deja vu for Kevin Love here. But, I don't know, maybe you can get a trade out of Cleveland for some young players. That would be the ideal trade I would do. To try to get some youth in that team. They already started with Colin Sexton, which, by the way, I think the guy's going to be a star. He's a young point guard out of Alabama. The guy is incredible. He has some great talent. But, honestly, the Cavs are really, really bad. They've really declined really badly after losing LeBron and Kyrie. So, could be very, very interesting to see if the Cavs do move on from Kevin Love, which I would prefer, because Kevin Love does not deserve to be stuck in Cleveland. He deserves to be on a winning team because the guy is pretty good, a pretty good power forward, but unfortunately he's stuck on a bad team again. So, yeah, but Patrick McCaw did actually sign with Toronto a couple days ago, and he's now going to be playing behind Norman Powell and Danny Green, so possibly an off-the-bench option for the Raptors. Good depth signing. He is 23 years old, so he is a young player. Could be interesting to see what happens there. Now moving on, we do have Mr. James Harden. He does tie Kobe Bryant's streak for 30-plus points in consecutive games. Harden, despite a really, really bad shooting night from the floor, James Harden did tie Kobe Bryant's record in a loss against Orlando, but he did tie Kobe Bryant's record for having 16 consecutive games with 30 or more points. The guy is insane. Possible MVP candidate. Just the way he's been playing is incredible. But Harden, Harden's been playing great despite not having Chris Paul, now not having Clint Capella either. So we could really see about James Harden, but still, I think James Harden, he's a definite MVP candidate. He's number 2 in my opinion because he's been playing out of his mind this season, especially without Chris Paul and without Clint Capella now. So it could be really telling on what Harden will do without 2 of his best players, beside him. So it could be very, very interesting. But Harden did basically demolish a record, not a good record, that was set by Damon Stoudemire in 2005 against the Golden State Warriors, where he went 5 for 21 from three-point. And until Sunday, that was the only time a player has missed 16 threes in a game. But Harden went atrocious 1 for 17 from three-point land, and he tied the league's single-game record for most misses behind the arc with 16. So that's really, really bad. That's really bad for James Harden. Nonetheless, though, he does tie Kobe's record, which is a pretty big accomplishment, honestly. Kobe Bryant, one of the best players in NBA history. So, congrats to James Harden. He's just having a great career. OKC should have never let him go. So, yeah. Now moving on to the last portion of the TBT Sportscast. It is in the MLB, and we actually had somebody pass away today. Mel Stoudemire did die at age 77 from multiple myeloma, which is a type of blood cancer. He was a former New York Yankees pitcher, and he had a record of 164 and 139 with a 2.97 ERA and 1,200 strikeouts from 1964 to 1974. He also won 20 or more games 3 times in 1965, 1968, and 1969, and he did lose 20 games in 1966. He also is a 5-time All-Star and actually was a great hitter. He has actually had an inside-the-park grand slam in 1965. He accomplished the feat, and he also did have 5 hits in one game for a pitcher. That is pretty incredible. But Mel Stoudemire, rest in peace. Hopefully you are in a better place now, and you're not in any pain, so that's all that matters. Rip Mel Stoudemire. Moving on, we have Manny Machado. He does have an 8-year offer from the White Sox on the table. It was reported earlier last night that Manny Machado does actually have an 8-year deal from the Chicago White Sox currently sitting on the table. And the Phillies are really engaged with Machado as well. And the Phillies did meet with Bryce Harper in Las Vegas over the weekend to try to get his services. And actually, USA Today did claim that the Philadelphia Phillies were the clear-cut favorite to sign Bryce Harper in the offseason, but they also said do not count out the Nationals as well, because the Nationals are bolstering their team. They did get Brian Dozier, and they also got Patrick Corbin to boost the pitching rotation. So it could be very, very interesting to see what happens over in Washington, especially with Bryce Harper. But moving back to Machado, there is actually a third mystery team involved in negotiations with Manny Machado. And also, the White Sox have showed great interest in Bryce Harper as well. They met with him before the new year, and the White Sox are reportedly willing to offer a decade-long deal if Philadelphia and the third team really start getting in negotiations with Manny Machado. And the White Sox also did trade for Yonder Alonso, who is Manny's brother-in-law, as well as they did sign John Jay off of free agency, who is Manny Machado's close friend. However, this does not mean any sway for Manny Machado whatsoever. So, I have a theory here. This mystery third team could be the Yankees. Reason why I'm saying this, I know Machado they were out of the race for Machado, but they would do that to throw everybody off course, because Machado built up a lot of hype when he was following Yes Network. He built up so much hype. And if I'm honest here, they could have just, when they said that the Yankees were not in the running, they could have really turned everybody away from the Yankees so nobody would be expecting it. And then, boom, Machado signs with the Yankees. It is not expected now because people really don't think it's going to be the Yankees now. But trust me, it could be the Yankees because that mystery third team is a big factor here. And I think it's the New York Yankees. Trust me on this one. And yeah, but overall, if Machado does go to the White Sox, that team will be incredible because now their infield will consist of guys like Jose Abreu, Yoan Moncada, Matt Davidson, Manny Machado, and also they would have a good outfield in terms of they have like Daniel Palka, I believe, and if they sign Bryce Harper too, I don't know if they have the cap space to sign both of them, but if they do, that would be incredible. And they also do have a great pitching rotation with guys like Michael Kopech and Carlos Rondon, both potential prospects, and they also bolstered the bullpen in getting Kel 3-year deal worth $18-something million. So, could be interesting to see what happens with Manny Machado, but, I mean, he could make his announcement this week or next week. Really, it's going to depend on what happens with Machado, but if I were to make a prediction right now, he's going to sign with the mystery third team. I'm calling it right now. Anyway, Greg Holland. The next story is Greg Holland, the former pitcher for the Texas Rangers and also, I believe, the Chicago White Sox, has agreed to re-sign with the San Francisco Giants on a 1-year, $7 million deal. He did make 30 starts for the Giants last year, and he did finish 7-9 with a 3.57 ERA and 171 in third innings. Also made 6 relief appearances, and the deal does include a club option for 2022 or 2020. So if the Giants do want to back out of Greg Holland, they can back out. They do have a club option. So yeah, but I mean, a decent signing for the Giants. They are making their pitching rotation a bit better, adding a bit more depth in case some people get injured. Remember, Johnny Cueto could be coming back this season, as well as Madison Bumgarner. He could still be on the team next season. We really don't know what's happening with him because there were rumors that the Giants were exploring trade options for Madison Bumgarner, but if they do keep him, they'll have Bumgarner, Cueto, and also Derek Holland to add some depth to the starting rotation. So it's a decent signing for me. I'd say it's a decent signing. Now, in our last bit of news here, it's going to be the Rays have signed Avisail Garcia, the former right fielder of the Chicago White Sox. They have signed him to a $3.5 million guaranteed deal, along with $2.5 million in incentives. They did sign him on a contract, and it actually came out a couple hours ago, and they officially signed him, and now it's pending a physical. And now that outfield will have guys like Kevin Kiermaier, Austin Meadows, who is an incredible prospect that they got out of the Chris Archer trade, and also Tommy Pham. So Avisail Garcia is going to have a bit of competition, but he probably will start in right field instead of Austin Meadows, but you really never know. The Rays could choose to build up Meadows, or they could choose to send him down to the minors and develop him more. And honestly, it's a good signing because it really increases the depth in the outfield for the Rays. They have been making some splashes, and especially they didn't have a bad season last year. Blake Snell really came out as a potential star, potential ace in the MLB. He already is the ace for the Rays right now. But, I mean, this team is solid. They have guys like Jacob Faria, who's still really young. I mean, he didn't really play, I don't think he played too good last season, but he still is a young guy, so he has time to develop. So really, time will tell on how these guys develop. But this is a good signing for the Rays. Good depth in the outfield. And, yeah, so that is pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed the second episode of the TBT Sportscast. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more content where I'm going to be trying to do podcasts every other day. I'll be trying to do the Sportscast every other day as well as the TBT or the Wrestling Podcast also every 2 days. I will be trying to stream TBTWF this weekend. I don't know if I will be able to. Anyway, though, I will see you guys later.